Alright, and we are back for part 4 of Chapter 5 of Life is Strange 2, resuming right now.
I don't think you should...
Keep your ass in that seat.
Sean!
You okay? How do you feel?
I'm okay, just a little headache. Hold on. Dude, we gotta go.
Hold up.
Is he okay? I wanted to rescue you, but I had to use my power. I didn't want to hurt him.
He's okay. Don't worry.
Hey! This is
Come on,
bullshit!
we gotta go.
Get us out of here!
Stay out of arm's reach.
Estoy aquí.
Sean,
He's out for the count.
Can we let the other couple out?
you think I killed him?
No.
How the
He's
fuck
okay.
did you criminals get out?
He'll just wake up with an... Hold on. We're gonna get you out. Daniel? Wow. That's it. Gracias. Muchas gracias. Espérenme aquí. Until I check this out. Of course.
Holy mother. How'd you do that? How?
Daniel?
Wait,
Fuck him.
what the fuck are you?
Good thinking, Daniel.
Okay, hands up.
Shit!
Don't
shoot!
Hands up. Do not move.
Wait!
Sean,
Stay back, Daniel. Let me think.
Sean, what do I do?
Quick. Gotta find something. Lamont,
You
dude!
got multiple officers down!
What's going on?
Get us.
Now!
They're dangerous. Be careful.
Chair.
We will shoot if we need to. Understand?
I'm scared.
Okay, what the fuck?
some-
Do not move. Don't do anything stupid.
No, not
kid.
kill!
Put him in there. Now.
Okay,
You're the man. Now let's move.
Sean, I think our things are in there.
Hey! What did you do? You fucking...
Our shit is still here. Finally, good news.
I'm glad to have
Step
confirmed it. I didn't want to.
Nice. Don't move. I'll be right back.
Okay, but be quick.
Should I have taken this stuff? I don't know. It is important to leave immediately. What's this? Walkie-talkie? Do we want that? Maybe.
They must really feel threatened to put so much effort into this.
No, they're just cosplaying. They're just pretending.
Look at that. Crime Central.
Okay.
Come on, Sean, we gotta go.
We would be so dead if we didn't have Daniel's power. Take it out, Daniel.
Que Dios los bendiga.
Okay, go! Let's roll, Daniel.
Hurry, Sean, drive!
Well, I'm glad we got our bag, because otherwise we wouldn't have the keys. He'd have to hotwire it. And who knows how long that would take.
Nobody is chasing us.
Not yet.
Emergency! This is an all-points bulletin for every unit in the area. Multiple prisoners, 2 adults, and 2 teenagers have escaped from the El Rey police station. They are considered armed and dangerous. Repeat.
Are we still going to Mexico?
Yeah. We got nowhere else to go.
Sean, it's the 4th of July. Our first one without Dad.
You're right.
Remember how he was so into fireworks every year? He always made us go too early so we could get a good spot.
I know. He was so corny. He said he was proud to live in this country. Shit.
Sean, what are we gonna do?
Sean! Sean Diaz! It's over! Don't make this worse! Get out of the car! Slow! With your hands above your head! Do exactly what I say!
You know that day in Seattle? The day Dad was shot? I think about it every day. And I would give anything to change what happened. But I can't. I'm sorry for my mistakes. I tried my best. I swear.
Sean,
I'm so proud of you, and I know, just like Dad would be. We both learned a lot together, but you can make your own rules now. If we surrender, they will separate us, Daniel. And if that happens, promise me that you will always do the right thing, okay? Don't waste your power. Be smart like you already are.
I don't want to be separated.
Hear me out! Please! Don't make any more mistakes!
Whatever happens,
Too late to surrender!
always remember that you're Daniel Diaz.
You know this is
I promise, Sean.
a trap. You can trust me. Please, get out of the car. Come on. There's no way out. This is our last
So,
warning. Listen out.
how does the story of the Wolf Brothers end?
Step out of the car. Now.
Oh God. Oh my God. If we cross the border, if we try to cross the border, they're gonna fire. They're gonna shoot. They're gonna hit one or both of us. Daniel can't can't deflect or stop all of those bullets. As far as we know, he can't pick up the car and fly us over there. It's not gonna work. God damn it. Oh, there's only one option here, and I hate it. But what would you do in a situation like this? Would you put your little brother in danger? No.
I think their story ends right here.
Here? But I could. I get it. That's not who we are.
Exactly. We're not criminals. We're just kids. And we still have time to choose what life we want to live. You're my brother. And I love you.
I love you too, Sean.
It's gonna be alright. I promise.
You promise? For real this time?
I do. We're doing the right thing. Just try and remember what I taught you. I mean, only the good shit.
I will. I swear.
On your knees! I said on your knees now!
I'm sorry about all this. We're gonna look after your brother. That's my word. Okay, he's ready.
Sean! No! Sean!
Oye. He's gonna be fine.
Daniel! You're not a little wolf anymore. Never forget who you are. Never.
All right. I think I'm going to try to dial it down a little bit. So just give me one quick second here. All right, I think it's very unlikely that we're going to get any sort of like a post-credit sequence based on everything that we just saw. It's so unfair. That is the number one thing that I feel coming out of this. Wow, that was incredibly touching. It's so unfair. It is hard, oh boy, right at this moment to not feel like I got the worst ending because of how destroyed Sean's life is based on everything that happened, and that in exchange, Daniel appears to be living a pleasant life. Not an extraordinary life, just a normal, average life. My thought process was not to discourage him from using his powers to do important things. It was about making sure that he had some time to develop the wisdom to know what was important, what was worth doing, what was safe and worthwhile and helpful. And instead, it feels like he didn't do much of anything with it, which it feels like I successfully coached him to avoid living up to his potential, and that was certainly not the purpose, and that the cost for that was half of Sean's life. I mean, 15 years isn't half your life, but he was, what, 16, 17? So what is that, 27 plus 5 is, he's in his early 30s now? There's a lot left to it, but he has no work history. He didn't, we don't know if he finished his education. He might have done that from prison, but his life is so much worse than it should have been. He's starting at the age of 30 odd from so far behind, and he lost all of his friends. As far as we know, he never got to talk to Lila again. I mean, it's just I don't know what would have happened if we'd crossed the border. We might get some hints about that when we get to the results screen. That when I say that it's unfair, I feel like that's the point of the story. Without going into it right at this moment, I feel like that is what the point of the first Life is Strange was as well. This is unfair. You are, or in the company of, somebody who can do amazing, extraordinary things, but you can't do everything, and you can't fix every problem, and these things have consequences. Life has consequences, and we'll talk at least briefly about the first Life is Strange in a bit. I'll give a little spoiler warning just in case anybody's coming here and hasn't played that, and by God, you need to. But let's focus on this for a second. So, a few overarching thoughts. Number one, 5 episodes, 5 pretty dramatically different settings. You have sort of the general Seattle suburbs, followed by the forests, a little bit south there in Washington, followed by the Great Redwood Forest in California, followed by this Nevada, sort of like, I think that was in Nevada, wasn't it? This religious sect, and then finally here that was set in primarily in the Arizona desert. I never felt like in the first Life is Strange that the environments were samey. My memory is that in every episode, you not only visited places that became familiar, but also you went to new places. And in a video game, when you do that, like in the real world, you just scout a new area and then you get rights to film there, and then you set up cameras, you bring everything out and then you film there. Here, you have to design that stuff. You have to build the environment. So this is not something that I wanted to delve into too deeply as we played, but they did a lot of environmental work to set up new places for everything to take place. There were within an episode, a lot of revisiting like a handful of areas, but then every episode was a completely new setting, and I found that technically very impressive. I like the fact that I was just thinking, it was technically very impressive that they always went to new places. And that the story unfolded months apart, that every episode is, I want to say, on average 4 to 6 weeks after the one that had preceded it. So this whole adventure takes place from a little bit before October 2016 until about June 2017, and then a little clip show of like the 15 years between those 2 points, or that follows on. So it felt like a much bigger story in certain ways. It was both broader geographically. It had a lot. I don't know that if I can say more characters, but again, where Life is Strange 1 had a cast of local characters that you got to know a lot about, and again, we might talk more about that, this season tasked itself with basically introducing an all-new supporting cast in every single episode, and you wanted to learn who they were, what was their relationship with Sean and with Daniel, what were their motivations, who could you trust, who could you not trust, what was their, when I say role in the story, it sounds more mechanical than I mean it, but what do I learn about their situation by way of the people that they know? And I never felt more vindicated than that, about that, than in episode 3, where it started off with Sean waking up in a tent, and I took some time to read through his journal, and before leaving the tent, at least got a Cliff Notes version of who we were about to meet. I'm always thinking about the pacing, because this is not just me playing a game for myself, but it's trying to go on the journey with you all. And I'm always thinking, like, is this, are people going to be frustrated that we're not getting on with it? But like that, when we walked out of the tent, there was a little bit of like working out, okay, no Cassidy, but who is this? Okay, that's Hannah, and that's Penny. Okay, so this over here, who have we not met? We haven't met Meryl yet. Like, I remember sort of piecing together, because from Sean's point of view, these are all people that he knows, and I have no idea who any of them are. So I'm thinking about it from that perspective, and sort of getting that diary notes version of who these people are, what he knows about them, how he feels about them, is then very helpful when I'm talking with them in his shoes and choosing responses, because he's coming to this with a history, or at least an implied history, and I want to make sure that I'm doing right by the character. So I also really like the way that the journal was used to fill in these gaps in time that would have not been redundant, but just a lot less necessary in the first Life is Strange, where you're playing as a character who is kind of a little bit new in this environment, and some of the people that you're meeting, she's also meeting for the very first time, so you feel like you're on even ground. Here they made use of that journal to keep you up to speed with where Sean was with stuff. So I thought that was very nicely done. I love the fact that all of the letters and everything are in actual handwriting, that it's not just a font. Even when I couldn't read it, you can just press the read button. So it lends it an air of authenticity, and I like that a whole bunch. And also from a technical perspective, the voice acting was just consistently excellent. I will say that of Arthur and... It's not Arthur, is it? Is it Arthur and Stanley? I'm so sorry that I have trouble remembering their names. I promise you that it's not a bit. There's just certain names and combinations that are difficult. I think it was Arthur and Stanley. I'm pretty sure, because I kept thinking Arthur and I said the Aquaman thing. It's a weird association in my head. If you haven't listened to the Quarter to Three movie podcast synopsis for Justice League, it's one of my favorites, and that's where that weirdo association comes from. Anyway, those were the only two characters in the whole place where I was like, are these voice actors, or are they members of the development team? Like, they just... It wasn't that they were bad actors. It's that they simultaneously had very, very distinctive voices, and also, I don't know what it was about their voices in particular, but it felt like I don't know, like they were community members who like really loved the first Life is Strange and ran fan blogs, and they got a little bit of a cameo in this one or something. They're probably, I'm sure that when their names went by, they have a robust IMDb of all the voice work that they've done. It's just, maybe it was just the way that they were recorded. They sounded a little bit louder than everybody else. I don't know what it was. But on the whole, the voice acting in this whole thing was really, really good. And that's extremely important, because this is not, sorry, what am I thinking of? The Last of Us 2. This is not Uncharted. This is not being done with an eye towards photorealistic graphics. The Life is Strange games are very stylized with this like texture work that looks almost like it's painted, like it's a little bit smeary on purpose. It's a very noticeable artistic approach, and as a result, the characters don't look super realistic. So then you're connecting with them based on the quality of their voice acting and then the strength of the writing around them. And in both cases, they did a really good job. There's something to be said about, like, there's a couple times where the characters are just immediately irredeemable shitheads. Like, I know his name wasn't Brody, because Brody was the nice blogger guy, but was it Brent? It was another B name, the teenager who lived next door to them at the very beginning. Just what a turd. Just, as far as we can see, no redeeming character qualities at all. And in the real world, and I bet if they did a DLC chapter about that kid, he's like, there's all sorts of other things going on in his life. I don't think the writers of Life is Strange take to it that some people are just bad human beings. I don't think that that's where they come down. But I only know, who do we get to meet? Like, what do we know about them here? And that kid was he was awful. And then the two like wannabe border patrol people, like, I hesitate to call them border patrol people, because again, they are not, if they wanted to go be border patrol agents, they could go do that. Like, they could go apply and get the proper training. That's not what they want. What they want is to exercise their Second Amendment rights to load up their firearms, go try to find people crossing the border, and then to cosplay as heroes. Maybe what they want to do is threaten them with guns and feel like they're big damn heroes and hold them there for the border patrol. Or maybe what they want to do is go out there in the desert where no one's around, there's no cameras there, and no one can see what happens. And then maybe at the end of an altercation with a few desperate people that are crossing the border because they're fleeing from violence or any other number of situations that might cause them to come seek asylum here in the United States, maybe they're just found later on lying face down in the desert someplace. And who could say what's happened there? Maybe that's what they're after. I will say this. There were a couple of kids standing next to a hole in the border wall. The first thing they did was take a shot. The first thing they did was pull the trigger. And then they went over to see what was going on. Sorry, I think, who was it? Was it Sean? Somebody somewhere said, oh, they're really afraid. It is true that in the United States of America, there is an entire industry dedicated to telling people that there's this existential threat that's pouring across the borders, blah, 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 blah. I just hesitate to believe that those two people and the people who look at them and say, yeah, right on, that they're being motivated by fear so much as violence. I think that that's what cruelty. I think that that's what motivates them. And let's move on, because otherwise I'll just run on that hamster wheel forever. It's a real world situation. It is interesting to me. I would like to know exactly when this game was developed. I know that it's been several years since it came out. We are recording this from the other side of the Trump presidency. The game here starts in 2016. It starts somewhat before what would have been the United States presidential election that then saw Donald Trump declared the winner. And he went on to serve 4 years as the president of the United States. And the results were very, very bad along every measurable axis. And one of those is for immigrants, for people who were attempting to come into the United States, both through standard legal procedures and otherwise, because they were desperate and seeking asylum and seeking some place where they could live in peace and without fear of persecution. And I cannot attempt to summarize in the amount of time that we have what was done by the Trump administration, except to say that it commonly felt like cruelty was the point, that the entire purpose was to make the United States immigration experience so dangerous. Hold on. The whole Life is Strange 2 team wants to express its sincere and humble gratitude for your amazing support, art, gifts, passion, and theories. And thanks again for your patience while we were crafting these episodes. Once again, we were proud to have you on board this amazing journey. Keep on howling. Oh dear, that last part. Okay, so before we read through this, is that really the only page? Okay, before we read through this, I would be interested to see when episode 1 came out versus when episode 5 came out, and maybe how the real world events of the Trump presidency came to inform this. Because one of the things that, speaking as a United States citizen and resident, it felt like those years of the Trump presidency made people who kind of revel in racist tropes and were looking for an opportunity to exercise the full weight and power of the United States government to be weaponized against people. There was one famous quote, I think it came out of, like, I don't remember if it was in like the New York Times. There was some quote in an article where the last line of it was a Trump voter feeling very distraught because, as she put it, this was an article about the economic downturn and how none of the jobs had come in. Mexico wasn't paying for the wall. It was one of those articles from like a couple years into the Trump presidency where he had failed to deliver on all of his promises. And it was one of those, like, let's check in with average Trump voters to see how they feel now that, you know, everything that they voted for, none of it is happening. There's no forward movement. It's grift after grift after grift, scandal after scandal. Nothing is getting done. And the article ended with the opinion of one Trump voter who was expressing frustration that he, quote, wasn't hurting the people that he's supposed to. He wasn't hurting the people that he needs to. Hurting, not herding like livestock, but hurting. He's not hurting the people that he needs to, the people that he's supposed to. And that is, a lot of people keyed in on that because I don't think that it was an accidental turn of phrase. I think it was revealing of this particular mindset. And it felt like that came up inside this game over and over and over again with the gas station owner. I don't remember his name right now. The dude who comes back, sees a couple kids sitting at the picnic table. It's the closest picnic table to the entrance. And what do they have? They've got 2 hot dogs. They've got like a little keychain bear. And what was the one? Oh, and a loaf of bread. Hey, did you pay for all that? That's what he comes over and and a map. Sorry, he has a free complimentary map. And he demands to know if they've paid for all that and wants to drag them inside. There's things like that. There's again, we brought it up earlier, but the 2 guys in the desert, they find Sean sleeping in his car. He's pulled over to the side of the road. He's off the road. He's exhausted. He's asleep in the car. They come up on him. They berate him. They beat him. One of them beats him up. And it's just because they can. The cruelty is the point. It feels like this game, I want to check the dates, but this game was developed during the years and then reflects the years when the actions of the United States government were intentionally geared towards empowering racists, to stoking those fires. I know it's not disconnected, stupid thing. Towards empowering those worldviews and telling them, this is it. This is your opportunity. You can do anything you want now. And we had events in Charlottesville where white supremacists were marching with their tiki torches and chanting, you know, Jews will not replace us. That was one of the big events that happened there. What were they, quote unquote, protesting with their march and their chant? The idea of bringing down Confederate soldiers dedicated to Confederate soldiers. Sorry, statues dedicated to Confederate soldiers. There are continuing problems of racial inequality and class inequality in the United States of America. During the Trump administration specifically, it felt like that became the official position of the United States government, to promote that, to exacerbate that, to highlight it, and to make it, to empower the powerful, to weaponize their dominance against people who were weaker, had less access, societally weaker, had less access to representation, less access to recourse, less access. And it feels like a lot of elements in this game are reflective of that, with some of the places that Sean and Daniel go and some of the ways that they're treated when they got there. And it's one of the reasons why one of the options was, when David talked to Sean, are you sure you don't want to just turn yourself in? And I said, no, he doesn't want to turn himself in. What would possibly make him think that he's going to get any sort of like a fair hearing on any of this? And then we see what happens, by the way. He goes to jail for 15 years for what this is not a plot hole. This is me pointing out how weak their case is. What did they say he had done to kill the police officer? What was the nature of that explosion? What explosive residue, what chemical powders did they find to demonstrate what this explosion was? Nothing, because there was nothing. They found evidence of a forceful blast. They couldn't link it to anything whatsoever, and the only 2 survivors were a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old at the time of the event, who they couldn't charge. So they charged the only other person who was close enough to adulthood that they could slam him away for 15 years, and that's what they did. So apologies to David, but that's why I didn't think that turning him in was a very good idea. Why did I? For all the reasons that I said at the moment. There were let's say 24 officers with weapons drawn, and the option was cross the border. Can Daniel shove everybody aside and get us across the border? Probably. Can he do so in a way that doesn't result in at least one of those police officers or border patrol officers firing his gun at the car and hitting either Sean or Daniel? I have no idea. He has a tremendous amount of control and accuracy when he's moving around inanimate objects like stones and leaves and soda cans, but against that many people spread out in the way that they are, without either hurting them or allowing them to hurt us, I didn't feel like I could take that risk, because if there's one overriding theme here, it's that Sean needs to protect Daniel. Sean wants to be with Daniel, to protect Daniel, to guide Daniel correctly, and it didn't feel like there was any way out of it. So I made the decision to turn in, and that's what happened. Again, it feels a little bit like I got the worst ending, but I don't know if we're going to see other result screens past this one when we say continue. Let's see, is there anything else before we look at this? I guess we mostly talked about what I would have said about David earlier. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I'd want to say about him. Nothing that comes to mind right at the moment. I want to say something about The First Life is Strange, but we'll do that at the very tail end. So if I was to focus on this game, I think I end where I begin, which is that the theme of this game felt like it's unfair. That it's unfair that this happened to Sean and Daniel and Esteban. It's unfair that Sean and Daniel face added scrutiny, anger, fear, suspicion everywhere that they go. It's not fair that people like, oh dear, Cassidy's, the leader of the Cassidy group, what was his name? Luke? Darn it. Like I've always said, I'm really, really bad with names. What the hell was his name? Finn. Finn wanted to use Daniel's powers for his own abilities, and then ultimately that Sean gets nailed for 15 years. He goes to prison for 15 years of his life for things that he neither did nor should have been held accountable for. And it's not fair. And there's a case to be made for that to be a central theme of the first game as well. But I feel like the first game handles it rather differently, which is just me saying not better, not worse, but it's handled differently enough that I by no means felt like this was a redux of the first game. I'll also say that I feel like it's well known that in The First Life is Strange, you're playing as a character with particular unique powers. In this game, they also, I don't want to say up the ante, but gave it a very fresh perspective by having you play someone who is closely related to somebody that has powers, and trying to guide them deftly and artfully through the ramifications of what that means, put a very different spin on it. Things that I might have done differently as Daniel. Well, it would be way too long of a list, but knowing that you can't always control what lessons Daniel is going to learn from the things that you teach him, the things that you want to teach him, and the things that happen around the both of you. You can't always control what lessons he's going to pull from that. So all you can do is do your best and try to err on the side of caution. And I'll also say that it was a very, very small number of times that I made a choice where it came out very differently from how I anticipated it. There were a bunch of times maybe that I might have phrased things a little bit differently, but also I'm way older than Sean is. So his sometimes lack of tact in the way that he would express things, or the way that he would hem and haw in a way that even if he's telling the truth, it sounds like he's lying. That's just the way people sometimes speak when they're nervous, and he had a lot to be nervous about in this adventure. So I don't know. I guess that's it. Everything that I can think of for right now. Let's take a look at this results screen. Interesting. So I joined with the slight majority. You decided to surrender to the police and Daniel accepted, but the other options in here are 31% decided to force the roadblock and Daniel accepted. 28% decided to force the roadblock and Daniel refused. I wonder if Daniel would have refused if I had tried to run the roadblock. Honestly, that did not occur to me. That he might have done that. That's super interesting. And then 8%, you decided to surrender to the police and Daniel refused. What would even that look like? What does he do in that case? How does he stop you from surrendering? Does he just kill all the police on the spot? Anyway, 61% taught Daniel to do his best to follow the rules of society, whereas 39% taught Daniel to put himself and his brother first. Based on the way that that is phrased, I am, I guess, relieved in the way that that came out. That is an accurate reflection of what I was trying to teach Daniel about not putting himself and his brother ahead of the needs of other people. I'm not sure that I had intended to teach him to just follow along with the rules of society. There are injustices in the world that deserve to be addressed. There are people in need of help that you might act outside the bounds of, like, technically speaking, I don't think you're supposed to go to an accident scene where, for example, a bus is teetering over the edge of the precipice and the police might tell you, hey, you have to get out of here. This is dangerous. Daniel should not get out of there because it's not dangerous to Daniel, and he can help all of the people trapped on the bus. He can help the people trapped in the burning building. He can help the people on the sinking ship. He can do things that are life-saving and important, and just because somebody in a position of authority tells him no, don't do that, doesn't mean that he shouldn't. It only means that he needs to be prepared for the ramifications of showing people what he can do, and he needs to have a clear sense of morality and a clear vision of who he is so that others, like that pastor, aren't empowered to take advantage of him. I'm going to press A. I want to see if there's any additional stats here. There are. Okay, thank goodness. 90% did the treasure hunt and found the hidden souvenir. 3% did the treasure hunt but didn't finish the quest. I have to assume that that was an accident, because why did you run out of time? I'm just very curious about that. And 7% refused to do the treasure hunt. That's the 3 and 7% are a surprising statistic to me. 81% overall got closer to Karen. 19% kept your distances from Karen. Yeah, on the specific topic of Karen, to speak as briefly as possible, since we talked about it before, my opinion of Karen softened. I don't want to say raised, but softened considerably. I ultimately feel that Karen, just like everyone else in life, did the best that she knew how to do, and when viewed from the outside without all of the adequate information, it feels extremely hurtful and needlessly callous. But I wasn't there, and I think that what we see of Karen as we get to know a little bit more about her is that she is a kind-hearted person who does care for her children and indeed was willing to sacrifice her own freedom for them. I had sort of entered into this thinking that maybe what might drive Sean and Daniel away from the desert commune was Karen saying, like, okay, so I'm out of here. I'm bored now, and I'm leaving, and it's a one-way trip. Like they might just wake up and she was gone or something, because I didn't know that she had her own trailer. I didn't know what the setup was at first. And we only, prior to episode 4, chapter 4, whatever it's called, we only know Karen through what Sean has told us about her. So I came away with a very, very negative first impression because that is how Sean knows Karen. The actual person is considerably more nuanced, and yeah, I think that we did get a lot closer to Karen. And I said my whole thing about Dear Karen versus Dear Mom. We talked about that earlier. 6% wrote a lukewarm note to Karen. Okay, so I'm in the minority there. 68% wrote a caring note. 12% wrote a conciliating note. I've heard of the word conciliatory. Conciliating is a little bit of a brand new tense or phrase there. I get what it means. And then 14% did not leave. Wow. More people by double didn't leave a note than what I did, which was wrote a lukewarm note to Karen. I wrote a note that I felt overall reflected what Sean felt, and then it felt like by the end he had warmed considerably towards her. So maybe what she will remember is the fact that he hugged her and called her mom before we left, and she will, she's wise enough, I think, to understand that the note might have been written before then. I don't know. She met him coming out of the prison, so that's got to be worth something. 72% said farewell to Arthur and Stanley. 28% of people didn't. It was one of the first things I wanted to do. I wanted to go around and say goodbye to everybody. 72% said farewell to Joan. I bet 28% of people, it just didn't occur to them to go say goodbye to people. I bet that's what happened there. That they were like, oh, I already talked to everybody. I don't want repeating dialogue, so I'm just going to leave. I wanted to double check, and I was glad that I did because we got to spend a little bit more time with people that seemed pretty cool. 97% hugged Karen before leaving. Yeah. A little bit curious about the 3%, but maybe their overall interactions with her had been a lot colder. 76% of people intervened to calm Diego in the cells. Yes, because that argument was going to only end badly for Diego. Only Diego was in danger there. Yeah, I know the Border Patrol agent is like, hey, you guys pipe down. But remember what they said. Oh, you're not the regular guy. The regular guy's on vacation right now. They had a deal with the regular guy. The regular guy was going to make sure they got out scot-free. So Diego is the only person there who's in any danger whatsoever. And yeah, you want to argue with them. I probably shouldn't even call them bigots, because what good does it do? They're proud of it. Okay, let's just move on. 66% of people freed the Mexican couple. I have to confess, it almost didn't occur to me because my number one overriding thought was we have to get out of here. We have to get out of here. Run, 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 run. It was fight or flight, and I don't want to fight. Like, there's games where you fight. This did not feel like one of them because only Daniel can fight, and the last time, the previous occasion when Daniel decided to fight, Sean lost an eye. So I don't want to fight, so let's get out of here. And then it occurred to me around the time that we reached the end of the hallway. Wait. We got to go back. We got to get Diego and Carla. I think, yeah, Carla was her name. We got to get them out. So, yeah, 2/3. 83% of people didn't ask Daniel to free the vigilantes. Yeah. Why the fuck would we? Like, I'm not going to guess. I'm not going to put any guesses at all for the 17% of people that got them open. Maybe it was to show them that you're the bigger person or whatever. But here's the thing. Sean and Daniel have, broadly speaking, what have they done that was wrong? What did they do that was wrong? I stole a loaf of bread because I was worried that my brother was going to starve to death. I did that. Yeah, I stole the loaf of bread. Is there anything else? I'd have to really think back about anything. I guess we hotwired a car. Yeah, we sort of disabled Big Jim's cars. We did that. Oh, and yeah, and we stole a car leaving the hospital. So like, yeah, there's a little bit of a handful of things that Sean did that were wrong along the way, out of acts of desperation. But aside from that, what did the vigilantes couple do? What did they do? They saw a couple people standing near the border wall and pulled the trigger. The first thing they did was they took a shot. and they actually hit. And then they went over to see who they were. Fuck them. Get them out of jail. Fuck off. 80% of people didn't hurt the vigilantes. It didn't occur to me to, I don't think I even looked at them. You know what I was doing with them? I wanted to stay on the other side of the wall. I didn't want them to reach through the bars and grab Sean. That's actually what I was worried about. So yeah, I wouldn't have hurt them anyway. Where it says take revenge. I will say this. My reaction when they drove up in their pickup truck and attacked Sean and Daniel, I was thinking to myself, all right, I gotta say, I kind of take it back. If Daniel picked this woman up and just shoved all of her arms and legs inside of her own torso, I wouldn't be that upset about it. But, like, don't do that. If it happened, I would have said, no, Daniel, how dare you? And then we would have just gone on with our lives. But also, don't do that. One of the things about exercising restraint and judgment is the restraint and judgment part. And they were in jail. They posed no threat. Don't hurt the vigilantes, I guess. 83% of people didn't ask Daniel to kill the officers to escape the police station. There was one moment in a Telltale game where I've told this story a few different times, not in too much detail, I don't think, mostly via text messages with other people that have already played the game in question, where I made a snap decision that if I had a little bit more time and been a little bit less alarmed, I would have chosen something different. This almost came out that way. I saw it come up as, like, distract wasn't working, and then it came up with kill. I damn near pushed the button out of reflex, and that's why you heard me say, no, whoa, not kill. And then I looked around for any other option because I did not want to kill them, but it damn near happened because I was so alarmed at having 2 Border Patrol officers advancing on me with drawn weapons. I remember what happened to Esteban. I don't like having guns pointed at these characters. 45% of people, Daniel was told off about the Scorpion and stopped messing with it. 23% of people kept on messing with it. Daniels kept messing with it. And then 32% of people did not tell Daniel off about the Scorpion. I was relieved when he put that down. It felt a little bit like burning ants with a magnifying glass. It didn't feel good. So I was glad that he stopped toying. It's the same reason, remember back in like episode 2, I didn't want to pick up Mushroom with his powers. That was one of the options. I was like, I don't know how Daniel does with living creatures, and also that feels like it might be scary. I don't know if it's painful. I don't know. So I was cautious about that, and yeah, don't mess with the Scorpion. 81% of people, Daniel managed to set up Joan's sculpture with your help. 15% set up Joan's sculpture like Daniel wanted, and 4% of people managed to set up Joan's sculpture without your help. Well, I bet he could have done it without my help. I wonder what's up with that 4%. Do they just like refuse to help? Like, I'm pretty sure that was one of the options. Like, nah, I can't really do this, and then Daniel does it. But that's a guess. 61% of people had a Daniel who was concerned about hurting Officer Campbell. I was glad that he expressed concern for that. 84% of people, Daniel wasn't asked to free the vigilantes. 12% of people, Daniel did open it up for them, but 4% Daniel refused. I would have loved to have known the dialogue during that sequence. I wouldn't have been upset with him. 80% of people, Daniel didn't have to lash out at the vigilantes. 14% Daniel accepted to take revenge about the vigilantes, and 6% he refused. Interesting. So you can apparently ask him to do so, and he won't. Again, I like the fact that these choices show that he is acting of his own accord. He is putting into practice the lessons that he's been taught. 24% of people, wow, this is a minority, not quite, but 39% of people, Daniel knocked out the officers. Well, that's good. I didn't know that that's an option, but I like my 24% of people who locked up the officers in a closet. Another 24%, Daniel was forced to intervene because the officers got too close. Wow. So I guess if that had happened, he would have just done what he felt was right. Whatever. I just don't know what that would have looked like. And then 13% of people, Daniel killed the officers when leaving the police station. 83% of people, Daniel was not asked to kill the officers. 12% of people, Daniel was okay to kill the officers. 4% of people, he refused to kill. And 1%, he was reluctant but forced to kill the officers. Wow, can you imagine being in that 1%? If you are one of the 1% that got that outcome, tell me your tale. And I think I'm going to push A. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to dial the volume back up just in case. But then I think we're going to be at the main menu, and that will be our conclusion. So everybody just hold on one quick second. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit continue right now. Thanks for playing and following Sean and Daniel on their journey. By the way, there is no music here, so... Oh, and that is it. Discover more games are on Life is Strange by going to the Buy More page, which we will not do. And then down at the bottom, how did the story of the Wolf Brothers end for you? Join in the conversation using hashtag Life is Strange. Do not do that. If any of the subjects or themes in this season have affected you or someone you know, please visit lifeisstrange.com/talk for more information about support organizations. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and hit main menu. And that brings us back out to the main menu. So, a final couple thoughts. I greatly enjoyed this. It is not going to be as impactful for me. Like, this is not going to live in my memory the way that the first Life is Strange did. But as I think I said in the first episode... Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to bring up. At the very end there, where adult Sean drives away... I'm like 90% sure that was the car that his father was preparing for him in episode 1. It looked exactly the same. It's at least the same, like, body type, it looked like. I couldn't tell, but it looked like he had gotten that car. And I noticed that, and I wanted to call it out, and I damn near forgot. So, this is where I'm going to say a few things about the first Life is Strange. It never came up throughout the entire playthrough, as I'd sort of vaguely heard that it wouldn't. So that's why this did not begin with any sort of an examination or retrospective on the first game. On rare occasions where it's felt appropriate, we've done an episode 0 where I would talk about a previous game in the series. I think we did that for Dreamfall Chapters, for example, where I talked some about the 2 preceding games because those had happened off of stream, and the first Life is Strange also happened off stream. I expect there will not be a playthrough of the first Life is Strange on the channel because I do not believe I will ever play that game again. I think I said it in one of the earlier episodes, but sometimes there's a game that you love so much that you want to play it again and again, and sometimes there's a game that you love so much that you will never play it again, and Life is Strange is where that falls for me. Life is Strange is one of those rare stories, adventures, bits of media. It exists in the same space as Persona 3, where it feels like those are things that happened. I developed such a strong bond with the characters and that situation that it really became a part of my life experience. And as I say this, do understand, I am very much aware it's a fictional story. It's not real. Believe me, I do understand those things. And yet I connected with the characters and their situation in a way that has yet, I think, to be matched by any other narrative game, with the closest example, like the game that came closest might have been like Telltale's Walking Dead franchise, which was also extremely good. So I wanted to address a couple things that might have come up. We have recorded all 5 episodes of Life is Strange 2 1 week apart for 5 weeks, and as of this sentence, none of them have been published or shown to anyone outside of this room. So I don't know what feedback or any has come back about the adventures so far. It would be easy for me to believe that during episode 1, one of the very first questions that come up was, did you play Life is Strange 1, which of course we did, and then the question was, did you sacrifice Arcadia Bay? And it's just yes or no, and that's it. And I chose no, which is true. And it would be easy for me to believe that there was some reaction for people, because what I've learned in the years since playing Life is Strange is that the choice that I made was not a common one. It feels like it's far more, not accepted, but it was far more likely for people who played the first Life is Strange to sacrifice Arcadia Bay. And again, massive spoilers from this point forward, to sacrifice Arcadia Bay in order to save the life of Chloe Price. And I feel like, so I just wanted to address that specifically. I felt like by the end of Life is Strange has this incredible sense of foreboding that develops as you're playing through it. And there's all of these signs, these sigils, these harbingers that something is terribly wrong. There's ants that are wandering in a sort of concentric pattern for no particular reason, just like tracing out this geometric pattern, this fractal pattern on the ground. There's 2 moons that appear in the sky. Whales are beaching themselves in large numbers, and then this gigantic storm comes up. And for me, it felt absolutely clear as day. The universe will not accept the presence of Chloe Price. This isn't up to Max. It's not up to you as a player. Chloe Price is supposed to be dead. And if she's not, I didn't see any reason to believe that that devastation was going to stop at the borders of Arcadia Bay. I thought if we don't preserve the town, who's to say it's ever going to stop at the town? It could go on, it could continue to expand. This devastation might never stop. I do feel like there was also the element of it that another relatively uncommon choice from what I've seen is that in my playthrough of Life is Strange, Max and Chloe did not have a romantic relationship. It's incredibly common, I find, for other people to have had them have found each other, and for Chloe and Max to be together romantically by the end of the story. And the fact that I didn't pursue that was, I think, going along with a couple different factors, probably chief among them, as a straight male, it doesn't feel comfortable looking at the relationship between 2 women where there's no, that I could tell, overt romantic interest coming from one towards the other, and then say, oh, those 2 are together. Like, I was looking at it, and at all points, the nature of their relationship seemed to be one of very close, intense friendship. And even then, the friendship was awfully rocky. It was... Chloe was going through a whole bunch because she had lost someone that was extremely important to her. She had been in this relationship with... I've always been bad with names, but I want to say it was Amber? Was it Amber? Nuts. That doesn't sound right, but now I'm completely forgetting what the correct name was. That person had just, as far as she knew, ghosted her. So there was a lot going on for Chloe, and the idea that there would be, like, I wasn't sure that I felt comfortable looking at what appeared to be a close and valuable relationship, a friendship between these two young women was also going to be romantic. Like, and neither one of them overtly said, you know, like that they were attracted to the other or anything like that. And also with everything going on with Chloe in her life, I was like, it just feels like these are two female friends. They're just really good friends, and they matter a lot to each other because they were best friends before, and then everything that happened in their family lives happened with the death of Chloe's father and everything. It was... So, in the end, it felt not only selfish for Max, but dangerous. The idea that she would sacrifice the entire town on the belief that then everything would be okay and Chloe would be okay. And I just didn't feel like I had a reason to believe that. And maybe if the two of them had been romantically interlinked, I would have come down on the other side of that. I also, since there is no other venue in which I can ever discuss it, I do want to talk about one of the most painful? Oh gosh. So I want to say it was right around... Okay, so a couple things that I'd like to say about Life is Strange. Let's just take a couple things in chronological order. This is all about the first game. Number one, to my immense personal disappointment, I know multiple people who quit at the 5th bottle. And what that means is, like to this day, here, it doesn't come up on stream too much, but my producer and I will talk about the 5th bottle. And that's just sort of a catch-all thing for like this gut check moment where if you get through this, you're perfectly fine. And if you don't, then you're going to wind up quitting the game over what is ultimately maybe not that big of a hurdle if you're just willing to like knuckle down and get it done. And that specifically comes from the first Life is Strange, where I know multiple people who got into chapter 2 of the first Life is Strange, and there's one section where you are tasked, Max is tasked with finding 5 bottles, and it's set in this particularly complicated environment where it's set up a little bit like a maze, and you're not sure what you can and cannot interact with, what you should or should not be looking for. And I know multiple people who found 4 out of the 5 bottles, could not find the 5th bottle, and literally quit playing forever. This happened years ago. I know multiple people who never revisited the game. And I keep needing to say massive spoilers, but what happens immediately after that is, and please forgive me if I have the name incorrect, but I believe it's Kate who attempts suicide. And also, in my game, here's another thing that might have colored that interaction with Chloe. In my game, Kate succeeded. Kate committed suicide because I couldn't remember. Just like you saw me go through in this game, I went through everything in Kate's dorm room when I visited there. I went through all of the Bible quotes. I went through details about her life, and I couldn't remember enough of them. I hadn't paid close enough attention. And it is, if anything, one of the formative experiences that I take into narrative games ever since then. I may not always succeed, but I watch very carefully. I pay a lot of attention. I read through the journals in Life is Strange 2 because I learned how critically important it can be to know something about the person that you're talking to, because in my adventure, Kate did not survive. And I know that for other people, she does. And it has, like, the game itself has such a different tone. There was such a pall, such a long shadow that was cast over Life is Strange because Max, with all of her ability, couldn't save Kate's life. I'm so terrified that I have the name wrong, and please forgive me if I'm wrong about it. And that was maybe another reason why, you know, that trite old saying about with great power, etc., etc. Max has great power, can she possibly take the responsibility for sacrificing an entire town to save the life of one person? All of those lives lost, I just couldn't. So that was another thing that had come up. And again, the fact that that comes up immediately after that 5th bottle, where so many people that I know just quit the game and never proceeded because, oh, it's frustrating. And that 5th bottle thing, like, it all the way down in like episode 5 of Life is Strange, there's like a joking reference to it. I don't think that the experience of the people that I know is all that uncommon, because in episode 5 they did a little like a wink and a nod to like, okay, maybe that wasn't our finest challenge. The first Life is Strange sort of exists in that space where I don't know that the people that made it were entirely comfortable with the idea that they could do a game that's just story. So they added in some gameplay sequences, like some stealth sequences and some find the bottle sequences and some other things. And when they didn't design them as tightly as maybe they could have, on occasion people would get driven off, and that's a point of frustration. But that's not the first thing that I wanted to that I was thinking of. The big thing, there were 2 major things that happened, and I want to say they were right around episode 4. If I get the numbering, again, it's been many, many years, but I remember the end of episode 3 of Life is Strange, when Max has used her ability to transfer to an alternate timeline. She went back in time using the photographs on her wall to save the life of Chloe's father, her biological father, and she comes back to the present, and everything is different. She's different. And her journal is different. Like, if you guys did not read her journal in that alternate timeline, I would consider it crucially important that you do that, because I did, and it was so flippant and cold. And one of the things that you learn from reading the journal is that Max has actually been back at town at the academy. I don't remember the name of it, the name of the school that she goes to offhand, but she's actually been in town for weeks and just has never gotten around to seeing her old friend Chloe. And of course, this Max from like Universe Prime loves Chloe. She's best friends with Chloe. She's finally reconnected with Chloe, and she can't believe that she hasn't gone to go see her. And then she goes to Chloe's house, and I think Chloe's father answers the door, which is like, oh my God, like, I did it. I changed history. This terrible, pivotal thing that hurt Chloe so badly, the death of her father, I've undone it. And then her father says, Chloe, it's for you. And he steps aside, and Chloe wheels up. I'm getting chills about it, talking about it right now. Chloe wheels up on her mechanized wheelchair with her long blonde hair. And Max sees her wheelchair bound, and Chloe's response is she smiles. And that's where the episode ends. Like, it still hits me this hard this many years later. I still think about this. She smiles because she's so happy to see her friend. And that was where the episode ended, and I waited a week to play the next episode. You guys, there is no week I've ever done between narrative games that was that hard. I was shook to the core, dreading what was going to happen next, and also I couldn't wait, but I did, and I waited a full week. And that again is one of those formative experiences in these narrative games where it's like the wait was so important, the sense of anticipation, that the internal theorizing, the thinking about it during that week is so much a part of it, and the memory of that smile has never left me. And then is it nuts? Yeah, no. Was that at the end of episode 3? Because I'm trying to remember. It doesn't matter what number episode it was. In the subsequent episode, in the following episode, Max spends a lot of time with Chloe, and it all comes around to there's so many things in that environment. There's so many things there. And one of them is a set of crutches that Chloe's father has bought because he has been so convinced that she's going to get better, that it is going to improve. And this leads to a scene where Max sleeps over at Chloe's house, and the two of them, like, I don't remember if they look at a yearbook, they're looking at old photographs or something, and Chloe says to Max, I can't do this, and I need you to help me end it. My parents, they're going bankrupt from this. They keep trying to do this. If you've played it, you know what the conversation is like. And she asks Max to help her end it. And I knew what I had to do. That was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made in any game. Any game ever. I knew what I had to do. I think I got up and walked away from the system. I think it was one of those decision points where it just, like, waits for you. I had to get up and walk away for like 10 minutes. And then I came back. And I helped Chloe do what she had asked. And it was real hard. And again, this is a story. It's a video game. It's fictional. And I remember we have a good friend who streams here on Twitch, twitch.tv/morethanamiya, and how hard the Walking Dead franchise hit her. And hopefully by the time, if she ever listens to this, by the time that she does, she will have played the first game, and we will have talked about some of these things, because I get it. She had somebody who once said to her, like, oh, it's just ones and zeros, they don't matter. No, they matter. It's a very, very affecting storytelling, and all of what I've just talked about are examples where when people say, oh, but your choices don't really matter in the story. Yes, they do. They matter a whole lot, and that choice mattered a lot to me. And again, it sort of draws back around to that experience of that alternate universe Chloe, and how much she had suffered from the car accident. Was it a truck accident? Was she driving a truck? I'm trying to remember exactly. It doesn't matter. The vehicle accident that had left her paralyzed from the neck down was one of those things that sort of like resonated with me, that every version of Chloe's story ends with her dying. Every version of this, when she goes practicing her pistol shooting, the pistol shot, what's it called, ricochets back and kills her. She gets her leg stuck in the train tracks and almost dies of the train. Everything in the universe is attempting to kill Chloe Price. The idea that this devastation is going to end at the edges of Arcadia Bay, that's why hopefully this doesn't sound defensive, because I made the choice that I did. What I do want is for people to understand why, and that it was really, really hard. It was really hard. And I remember, this will be the final topic. At the end, wow. After Life is Strange was over, and you're sort of left in that space where you realize, I don't think I'm ever going to get to see these characters again. Like, this is it. The story is done. There is no more Chloe and Max, and that friendship and everything that it meant is over. There's no more Kate. There's no more Dana. There's no more Lisa the plant. I remember so many. I'm so bad with names, but I remember Dana. Fuck you with the thing. I remember Lisa the plant. I didn't overwater Lisa. Lisa survived. Sorry, I'm just trying to recollect my thoughts there. Oh, you enter into that space where you're like, I want more. And it was one of the rare things that I did where I like looked online because I wanted to like find other people who had played. I wanted to know what they thought, how did they react. And one of the very first things that I found was, I believe it was on Twitter, somebody had posted like a photograph of two cosplayers, one of whom was very identifiably Max, and one of whom was Chloe, and they were embracing and just like bearing their faces into each other's shoulders. So you couldn't see their faces, but there was that shock of blue hair and that hairstyle that looked like Max's, and it was so immediately identifiable as to who they were, and that they were. It was a great photograph of just from a couple cosplayers who were able to capture in this one single image how much they had meant to each other. And I really love that picture. And to this day, as of this statement, if you look on our Twitch page when we are not live, that is an image from the first Life is Strange, from the end of episode 1, where Max has confided into Chloe about her ability, and the two of them are watching the setting sun, and it's there because that game meant so much to me. I loved it so much, and that moment at the end of episode 1 was the point where it felt like anything could be possible, because Max has saved the life of her best friend Chloe, and who knows what else she can accomplish with this power. And it felt like a moment when there was a lot of trepidation, there was a lot of curiosity, there was a lot of awe, and there was a lot of hope in that moment. So that's why, to this day, at least, it continues to be the we're currently offline message here on Twitch. It's not chosen by accident. It is something that's actually very meaningful to me. And that's it. I wanted to save any comments that I had about Life is Strange. I guess that would bring us back to David briefly, just knowing where he ended up. And David was an example of somebody who my opinion on him changed a lot as the first Life is Strange went on, because when you first meet him, he is striking his stepdaughter like it's absolutely indefensible. He's a monster. And as you learn more about David, you come to realize that he is very damaged himself. It doesn't excuse what he does, but it does allow you to understand it, and that by the end, David was a source of David helped out a lot by the end. So having had that interaction with him in the first game, it was meaningful to see him here again. The fact that his relationship with Joyce has fallen apart, but maybe they're starting to reconnect by phone at least a little bit, and that he mourns the loss of his stepdaughter to this day. And that was a nice eulogy, I think, for Chloe. But that's it. That's everything that I have to say about Life is Strange 2 and Life is Strange. If it feels a little bit odd that we're ending with so much talk about the first game, trust me that it is because I can't ever talk about those things except for right now, because I'm certainly not going to end up a Kathy Rains stream and just start talking about Life is Strange. These are things that have been with me for a long time and will continue to be with me for a long time to come, and I dare not ever talk about online, because it would be such a dismal spoiler for people who might not yet have encountered that game, and I hope that they do someday. That's it. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this adventure through Life is Strange 2. This initiative is something that was put together by a few years ago. More Than Amiya had to go out on surgery. She knew that she was going to be unable to stream for a while, so she took some time to prep up some episodes that she could publish. Sorry for the that she could publish during the recovery from surgery. And we've been thinking a lot about that, and it seems like a very smart deal. So we figured that we would get some of these episodes banked up so that if in the event that I were sick or recovering from surgery or got COVID or any number of other things, that we could continue to provide hopefully a steady stream of content for our subscribers, because you guys mean more than I am able to express on any given stream. We say it at the end of every episode and at the end of every playthrough. And we really, really mean it, you guys. Thank you so much for your subscriptions. Thank you for coming with us on this journey, and we will see you again in the days and weeks to come with some more streaming adventures. Until next time, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.